now former senior advisor to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and Stevens Inc. Executive Vice President and Senior Policy Advisor Mary Kissel. Mary, good morning to you. I'm looking at all of this unfold.
Good morning, Jackie.
The plan for Ukraine, it's coming on the heels of the botched U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. And I do understand that these are different situations, but I had flashbacks of what was happening at that point when we were trying to get Americans out. And I see this administration waiting on its heels, waiting for something to happen before it gets balls rolling. Your thoughts on how we're handling this?
Well, I think the team, the foreign policy team that the Biden administration has in place is the same team that President Obama had in place, and they're trying to layer techniques from 2010 on a situation in 2022 that's very, very different. And unfortunately, diplomacy without leverage simply doesn't work. We should never have been in this situation. But unfortunately, they sent messages of appeasement from the very, very beginning. They greenlighted the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. They rushed back into the New START treaty with Russia. And as you said, there was a demonstration effect there with the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan that said to Putin, you can do whatever you want. And unfortunately, he's now testing their resolve, and they continue to talk to him, which I just find absolutely mind-boggling, Jackie.
I hear you. And of course, President Biden had a press conference last week, and he was talking about the situation side by side with the German chancellor. He promised Americans that he will shut Nord Stream 2 down. He promised if Russia invades, again, probably too late, but he doesn't even have control over Nord Stream 2, and the German chancellor wasn't committing to it.
Yeah, well, this is another theme that I think should be explored, which is that we can't really talk about Europe as a cohesive whole. Germany has a very different threat perception from Russia, as does Poland, or do the Baltic states and others in the region. And, Germany invested in Russia like American corporations invested in China. And so there are corporate lobbies that are very strong in Germany. Olaf Scholz sits atop a very, very fragile coalition. And there's a reason why he didn't say Nord Stream 2 in that press conference, because he doesn't agree with President Biden's approach. Now, that doesn't mean that we should sit back and just complain about Germany and the incentives that Germany has. We need to come up with proactive solutions. So we need to work with the countries of Eastern Europe. We need to encourage Britain post-Brexit to do more, which, by the way, they are doing. They're sending in materiel and special operations forces to train Ukrainians. But we have to do a lot more. And it's not just about Ukraine, Jackie. The signals that the administration is sending, particularly with the renegotiation of the Iran nuclear deal, the presence that they have, the stance that they've taken, pulling back from our partners in the Gulf like Saudi Arabia, the return to dialogue with communist China, the emphasis on things like climate change, talking to Putin, even though they've been doing that for months and they've gotten absolutely no deliverables out of him. I mean, these things, have to be taken in whole, right? Because bad guys look at what we do in every single part of the world.
Of course.
So Ukraine is just part of a larger picture of, I think, what is starting to look like cascading crises, and that's deeply concerning.
Let me ask you about this. The Biden administration also sending Vice President Kamala Harris to Germany next week. She was tasked with solving the border crisis. She hasn't done much there, so I'm not sure what she'll be doing specifically in Munich, but it's a security conference on the crisis. Some Republicans are pushing back against that move due to Harris's performance and her responsibilities with respect to other issues that she has been tasked with. If you can't handle this, why are we sending you to handle that?
Well, look, national security is not a partisan issue. And ultimately, these decisions are made by President Biden. He was the one responsible for going to zero in Afghanistan without any cost. And look, it's not just the vice president who's going. We have congressional delegations who go. It's a big conference. I think what's notable about Munich is that Lavrov and Putin are not going to be there, according to reports. So they're basically saying, you can go and talk to each other. We're going to continue to build up forces and try to extract concessions from you. And I think that that's really the big big story that's coming out of Munich.
It does seem largely ceremonial in some ways, if you will. I want to get your take on this before we let you go. Top U.S. officials briefing senators on the progress of Iran's nuclear program yesterday. You just mentioned this earlier, telling them Tehran could have enough material to build a nuclear bomb in weeks. This is as indirect talks continue in Vienna to revive that 2015 agreement, which would restore limits on those efforts. Members of both parties critical of that 2015 deal. That's why President Trump tore it up and walked away from it. It was a bad deal. Your thoughts on where we are now? This is an administration that, once again, is negotiating with terrorist countries.
Yeah, this is a story that deserves broad attention across the world, not just here in the United States. Iran is the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. The deal that President Obama negotiated was not a treaty, and Iran cheated on it both during and after the deal. So we've run this playbook before. We've appeased Iran before, and we've seen the results. They took the money that they were given to fund proxy groups to attack our people in Iraq, in Syria, to prop up Hezbollah in Lebanon and terrorist groups across the world. They're present in our hemisphere. They have tried attacks here in the United States. So the idea that we have allowed Rob Malley and Brett McGurk, the negotiating team that was really the same negotiating team that we've had the last time around involved in the Obama years, to do the same thing over again is just absolutely appalling and very, very dangerous, not just for the national security of Israel and our partners in the region, but for us here at home, because, again, Iran has carried out terror attacks in Argentina. They're present in Venezuela. They tried to kill the Saudi ambassador here on U.S. soil. And it's not just about nuclear weapons, Jackie. They have ballistic missiles that can reach our facilities in the Gulf. If they do this deal, they could become the world's largest arms exporter. So this is, nuclear weapons is the big headline story, and it's extremely important. But there are many, many other ways that Iran spreads its malign activity around the region, around the world, undermining our partners and our interests.
Sure. It is a dangerous situation. Mary Kissel, great to see you this morning. Thank you for breaking it down, and we'll have you on again soon. All right. We'll be right back.
Thanks, Jeff.